Mabuhay, hello everyone. We are on Native Pulse, which is a production of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples. The purpose of the Native Pulse Conversation Series is to bring forth the heart, knowledge, and action of Indigenous communities to the people. Our series will feature a variety of leaders and traditional peoples speaking on environmental justice, sustainable communities, and urgent issues as they relate to the health of our homelands. It's our intent that you leave these conversations feeling uplifted and inspired into action by the many movements across the Indigenous world. Ang pangalan ko ay Chelsea Miraflor Trillo. My name is Chelsea. I work at the 7th Generation Fund as a program coordinator of Thriving Women, which is a program that centers and uplifts Indigenous women leadership in order to reclaim a world without violence against Indigenous communities. And so today I'm speaking with Norma Rendon, who leads Where All Women Are Honored in Rapid City. I'm super excited to be here with you, Norma, and to see you again, especially as the powerhouse you are and key leader in addressing domestic and sexual violence in your community, among the many other things that you do. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling our listeners about your community and project?
Thank you for this opportunity, Chelsea. At 7th Generation, I want to say thank you because they gave us this opportunity for our young women and our adult women and our elders. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity. And when you talked about uplifting our community, and I think that is a powerful statement. And I will move my mask down because we're speaking on camera, but I really encourage people to, right now at this time, always wear a mask, always protect yourself and to protect our community members. So we're in a shelter that's in close proximity, so our women and children in shelter do wear their masks at all times. But I just want to send that out to our communities because that is very important. I am also Tribal Navigator for Call to Freedom, and Norma Rendon, Machiapi, Oglala Lakota, Lakol Echiapi, Wachiampi Wi, Wopila Chichapi. I want to thank you for this time. We're in very crucial times right now as a Native nation. We have been exposed to germ warfare once again. And we've experienced this in the past and we survived it. We will survive this too. And we will come out a stronger nation just as we have in the past. When it comes to our women, they hold a special place in my heart. And when we do all of the things that we do for our Native relatives, we do always remember our grandmothers first. Our grandmothers that are here, the ones that have gone on before us, and we honor them in that way, and we honor our women and children that are here. And one of the things that is very vital is to remember the sacredness of us being a good relative. No matter what nation we come from, if we would all consider each other a relative, then these bad things wouldn't happen because mitakuye oyasi. We are all related. And if you could really grasp the deep meaning of that saying, you would never harm another person, no matter what color they are or where they come from. So those are some of the things that we instill in our young girls when we move forward with this Thriving Women initiative and talk about the sacredness of our bodies and our role and place in the society, trying to rejuvenate our societies for women through colonization and other efforts to terminate Native women. We've lost those. We haven't lost them, but we haven't fully participated in them. So to bring that initiative back is great. And seventh generation is giving us the ability to do that. So I say, Oglala Chichiapi. Chelsea and I have talked about the pipeline coming, KXL pipeline coming through Rapid City, through Pennington County and Meade County. And we have some real hard issues ahead of us. So my position as a tribal navigator is to try to strengthen the response to sexual assault and sex trafficking of our Native people. And it's going to be a difficult job, but it's something that needs to happen, and for the protection of our young girls. I'll give it back to you, Chelsea, so you can kind of lead me and direct me where I'm supposed to go from here.
You are definitely leading the conversation. So if we're there, we can definitely talk a little bit more about the KXL pipeline. As you were saying, it's no secret that this is an especially stressful time for Native communities. And that on top of that, you're having to deal with the fact that extractive industries are considered essential. And so not only do you have the remnants of Standing Rock, but you now have this new construction coming in with the KXL pipeline that resumed its development. And so, yeah, if you wanted to just speak a little bit more on like how that is directly affecting your community in terms of like, missing and murdered and domestic violence, things that we've talked about. And how is your project responding? How are you responding?
So it is already having a great impact on my community. My community is I'm from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, but our program is up here in Rapid City because we're sister cities. We're so close to each other. One direction is 110 miles and the other direction is 85, 86 miles. So we're very close in proximity, and we have Rapid City. 93% of the homeless people in Rapid City are of Indigenous nature, and over 95% of the victims in Rapid City, our Pennington County, is Native. So we, and over 90% of our people incarcerated in the state of South Dakota and in Pennington County are Native. So this is going to be a difficult task, bringing our sovereign nations and Pennington County together. It's going to be a difficult task, but it can be done. We can move forward and create bonds that will help protect the people all the way around. Not only is Pine Ridge being greatly impacted by this, but so is Standing Rock and Eagle Butte. When we're talking about extracting oil from our land, we're raping our own Mother Earth. There have been so many negative impacts on land from the areas that have already been stripped of their oil. And we see that. We see waters being polluted. Our animals are being affected by it. Birds that land in the water full of oil, fish that are dying, and then all their diseases that are being compiled and in greater depth on different diseases that they're contracting that never occurred before, never existed before. So we have a lot of work to do as far as environmental. But when we talk about our people, it's the missing murder Indigenous women is increasing with the onset of the mancamps around our counties. In Pine Ridge alone, I know of 5 young girls already that they have tried to steal our young girls. They tried to kidnap them, abduct them. And so far they've been caught, but it's going to soon happen where the abductors don't get caught. I mean, we really monitor our people. We're fortunate that they were caught right away, the abductors, but it's happening in Rapid City. and we're not hearing about it in the news. It's I hear about it because I operate the shelter up here, but I don't hear about all of it. I don't hear about the success stories. I hear and see a lot of the trafficking that's happening up here, and it's increasing. Once the man camps are totally set up, it's going to be even worse. So our numbers are going to multiply. And I have to say that this is historical for our women. This goes back to colonization. You know, Shivington's war cry was, kill the lice and end the nits. So if you murder the women, and there's going to be no more children. So if you murder the Native women, there will be no future Native Indigenous people from America. And adding to that is the United States government. You know, the Indian House Service sterilized our Native women without their consent or knowledge clear up to 1977. And when I talk about that in different forums, I ask the people, what is that? And many times they don't even understand the impact of that. That is genocide. That is, there's no way around it. That is genocide. And so what is happening today? The environmental impacts, but what is happening today to our Native women? They declared war on us a long time ago, and it hasn't stopped. It has not subsided. So we end up with, when they sterilized our women at that point in time, what was happening to them was deep depression. Some committed suicide because they couldn't have children. And there was a lot of mental health issues, alcoholism, addiction, because they just didn't feel whole. They didn't feel like they were able to have their own children, which many women yearn for, that desire to give birth to their own child and to raise those children. So our women really struggle. We still struggle today. So that's why I really think that the Thriving Women Initiative was a great initiative, because if we can empower our women and our young girls and give them a good direction to go in and to think positively, and that's the important key. You talked about that in the very beginning. We've got to think positively. Like we're talking about this COVID. So I've been working a lot daily with people that are positive with COVID. And I want to say that we need to stay positive about it. We need to unshila them, and we need to protect them. We need to lift them up and give them honor. We need to honor them, because right now they're sick, but people need to keep in mind that the majority of them survive. The death rate is not really that high. So we just need to hold up our relatives and make sure they have a safe place to go while they're healing. But it seems like our people struggle every day with one thing or another, poverty. We live below the poverty guidelines. But we can get through all of this, and we need to move forward in a positive direction and working together. Seventh generation with Bonnie, with the Indian Collective, Hope Mountain, all of these programs that come together to work in a good way. We have Maggie's House out of Kyle. There's a lot of programs that are nonprofits that can come together and help the people. So I think that's important, that we all continue to work together and support each other.
We are on Native Pulse with Norma Rendon, at where all women are honored. So Norma, you already started talking about this, how this institutional racism and oppression and poverty are all products of colonization, and that this is not anything new to your community. You've also talked to me about how acknowledging this history is crucial to moving forward. What are ways in which your community demonstrates how ancestral teachings have allowed you to move forward and survive and thrive through it all?
Thank you, Chelsea. Yes, I want to start, I think, for us, Lakota, the Ocheti Shakoi, I want to say that we had real difficult times before, and that's been said, but at one point in time, the white buffalo calf pipe woman appeared to us, and she was a spirit, and we believe in our spirits. There's who lead us and guide us still to this day. When she came, she gave us 7 sacred rites, and if we participate in those 7 sacred rites, then things will be good for us. And so when I talk about us honoring and remembering and living those 7 sacred rites, that's what continues to give us life. That's what continues to give us hope. And so for those of us that carry a chanumpa and we pray for the people, and I talked about us being good relatives, and that's what this life is all about. And I was very fortunate to have a medicine man in my life by the name of Robert Steed, and he's went on to journey in the spirit world, but he still sends me different teachings, as do my grandmothers that I've never even met before, that can come and give us teachings. But one of the things Robert Steed talked about was one time, I always like to share this because I think it's so important. When I was in ceremony and my children were just toddlers and a baby, he talked about the importance of how the men in our societies lost their way in one day. Everything was taken from them in one day. And so our roles reversed and changed all in one day. And I had a difficult time at first to thinking, how can anything in one day change for a person? And he said it was the day they walked onto the reservation. Their hair was taken from them. And our hair is considered sacred. You know, we never cut our hair. And then their language was taken from them. Their weapons were taken from them. So the way they dressed, the way they talked, their hair, everything, they're being able to protect their women and children, being able to provide for them, that was all stripped from them in one day. And they still saw their grandmas, their aunties, their mothers and their cousins and their sisters being raped. And they could not do anything to protect them. And then we were still starving. They put us on reservations and guaranteed us food, but the boss farmers were taking the food. So babies were still starving to death. They were still dying of the elements because blankets weren't being given to them that they were promised. So these bad things were happening and the men couldn't do anything about it. So they felt hopeless, helpless, and defeated. So when the mothers and the grandmothers seen this and the aunties saw this happening to them, to their takojas and their hokshichalas, they said, they started to pity them. When prior to that day, there was never a thing called pity for the men. And so when they started to pity them, our whole system, our whole way of life changed. And so he said to the young mothers, make sure that these young men are responsible for their own actions. If your children do something, make them accountable for that. Because until this happens, we're going to have alcoholism, we're going to have domestic violence, we're going to have sexual assault. because we don't hold our societies accountable. So all of the 7 sacred rites that the White Buffalo Calf woman brought us, she brought us those for those very reasons, to be able to protect and help the people, to make sure that the people are fed again. So that Chanupa is very powerful. It's our connection between us and the spirit world. And so they can still come and guide us in whatever direction that we need to go. And to remember that so before we eat, one of the things we do is we make sure we feed our spirits, our relatives that went on before us. We put a little bit aside for them and always remember them. We talk about making a good relative. And so to know your genealogy, who are you related to? But to call each other by kinship terms, mashke. Mashke might mean friend, but it goes further than that. It means this woman, I think so much of her. Not everybody is a mashke, but this one, I think so much of her, and I know that we were connected before this life that we have here. And I know that we're going to be connected in this next life that we will have. So our ways are powerful, and they help us to remember that we're all related. And if you can remember that we're all related, mitaku yeo yasi, that's the red, the white, the black, and the yellow, then we'll all be good to each other. And that was brought to us with that sacred pipe, were those 4 directions and those 4 colors of people. And so I have Spiola friends, and they say, well, where's the brown? But really they're native people, so they're in with the red. So our sacred ways are what lead us. And if we just follow those, we just can't go wrong.
Thank you for that, Norma. It's a really important and good reminder, especially right now with everything going on, that we are all related. I was wondering if you, before we close out this conversation, if you had any final thoughts or calls to action at this time, and if you wanted to share with our listeners ways that they can support your work.
I thank you for that too, Chelsea. So when you say ways that anybody can support our work, one of the first things we always go to is financial, but the most important way that you can support the work that we're doing, all of us Native women that are trying to hold our women up and our young girls up in sacredness and honor, is for you to honor them. That is the most effective, most powerful way that anybody can support that work that we do for MMIW, for sexual assault and for domestic violence. Hold our women in honor and sacredness, and be good to them. For bystanders, if they see domestic violence is happening, call. You don't have to step up and try to stop it, but you can call 911 and report that this is happening and I saw it here. You know, a sexual assault happened. One of the things that we do is we re-victimize our victims. Hold that woman that's been violated. Hold her up and believe her story. Women that have been sexually assaulted, it's hard because you hear time and time again, well, was she really? If she says she was, she was. The other is we have young men. I wanted to also say that with these pipeline and man camps coming through, in Bismarck, which is like 3 hours from Newtown, they had an increase of sexual assault on young men and boys at 75%. So I want to say that, if you want to hold up anything that we're doing to stop the violence, that's a primary thing you can do, is educate your community educate your family and say, this isn't going to happen anymore. And we can't do this alone. We need our men. We need our men to stand with us, stand beside us, hold our hand and stand forward, go forward and say, stop the violence against women. Because our women can't do it alone. And we do have some strong Native men leaders and non-Native men leaders that do stand up and say, you need to stop this. This needs to stop, and this, we want to help. So I think that the best way to support any program that is trying to stop violence, family violence, and you think about the children that watch their mom and dad fight, their mom being beat, there have been children that have seen their mother be raped or their auntie, and the trauma that inflicts on our children, the trauma that our children are experiencing from domestic violence, from alcohol and drugs, is it's so depressing. But like you said, we have to move forward. We have to help them move from this spot to this spot and to start. And it can happen. I've seen it with families where they receive the re-education. They love each other. They want to move forward. They want to protect each other. The man wants to protect his family. So we do these re-education programs and help them to move forward in a good way, and to teach our young people that it's important to hold each other up. It's important to realize and acknowledge that these young women are sacred because they bear life, because they're able to carry that life for 9 months and then give birth to it, and this young child, this little baby. And so then it becomes even more sacred. So women are sacred and men are honorable. So that's what I wanted to say about being able to help an organization, would be through being positive and being protective and honoring our women with respect. So I think that's what we can do to move forward and to honor these programs. I do have one more final thought, and that is there's so, for social distancing, my concern is with this COVID. We're focusing so much on COVID that we've lost the perspective of our MMIW. We've lost the perspective of trying to protect our women and children. And so we're trying to protect those that are sick, and we're trying to stop the movement of COVID. So in focusing on that, our domestic violence is increasing, our elder abuse is increasing. I have not seen or experienced a sexual assault increasing, but I really believe that's because the bars were shut down. But they're open again now, so it'll be interesting to see if we see a movement in that. But I think that we can't forget, we cannot forget our MMIW. There are more. I remember when I was at Standing Rock, and the leader of the Black Lives Matter movement was there. And I'll always remember this, and I talk about this with the youth. They said, you need to know where your own people are in this system, and in the system of oppression, racism, systematic racism, because per capita, there are more Native men murdered by police than black men per capita. So I was astounded by that, because I didn't know that. I knew we experienced a lot here in Rapid City, but I also went to school at CU Boulder, and I didn't see it then. So I didn't know, I wasn't quite sure. So I did start studying, and it was true. Would you just go to the CDC website, and you can find that kind of information out. So then I realized that as Native Indigenous people, we have a long way to go, but we can do it. We can achieve anything we want to achieve by working together, by staying positive. And one of the things that I want to say is anger isn't a good way to do anything. Nothing is accomplished through anger. Anger and fear are two things that can lead people in a negative direction. So we need not to be fearful, and we need to watch ourselves, keep ourselves in check, and make sure that these kinds of things don't make us angry, because if we get too angry, we can't strategize in a good way. So we need to remove that anger. Plus, that anger can make us sick. That fear can make us sick. So we need to remove the anger and the fear. We need to be able to strategize with a clear mind and a clear heart, and to move forward. So I just wanted to say that we need to refocus, and we need to remember our women and children. Thank you.
Salamat po. Thank you so much, Norma, for your time today to share your stories. You heard it from her. Honor our women, protect our women, believe our women. And this is not just a fight for women, that men need to be included in the conversation. Other genders need to be included in the conversation. It's all our responsibility to reclaim a better world. So thank you for demonstrating that. Thank you for leading those movements in your local community and showing the rest of the Indigenous world too how to effectively address these violences and base your responses in ancestral teachings, in culture, in community. I just thank you again, and want to uplift that how relevant this conversation has been and how especially relevant it is now. So salamat po again. For those listening, we thank you for tuning into Native Pulse. We hope you found this conversation as enlightening and enriching as we did. To learn more about us, visit www.7genfund.org. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.